my name is Aoife and this is the Happy Weight Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and especially if you're a repeat listener. I know there's so many other podcasts you could be listening to. I'm really grateful that you're here. Today we're going to be talking how to tell the difference really between basically a real or fake craving. The idea for this podcast came from last week. I was on Zoom calls with clients until 7:30 in the evening, right? And in or around that time, I started thinking about cooked chicken, like roast chicken, you know, the rotisserie chickens that are in supermarkets. And then I was driving home and I was like, well, I won't get one now because I have stuff to use up in the fridge and they're always dried out and manky at the end of the day anyways. And I went, had my normal dinner at home. The next day, I was having my eyebrows done. Therese, who does my eyebrows, she's like, I'll leave you there now for 10 minutes to relax. And, you know, she turns off the light and you're in the cozy bed as your like eyebrows are developing, the dye in them. And I'd say for that entire 10 minutes, I was thinking about hot chicken. And then it gets worse. I was actually messaging a guy on Tinder. And I'm telling you, this was my message to him. I think chicken in the 90s was better than now. And that's my story. And I'm sticking to it. Like, I haven't read the pro tips for using dating apps, but I'm guessing talking about chicken in the 90s is on how you like build connection or romance with someone. So this tells you the level of how much I was thinking about chicken. So then I was walking back to work in the co-working space in Skib, and I was like, oh, I really can't be bothered going to the supermarket to get chicken. And then I was like, Aoife, you know how this will go. You'll go back to work, you'll eat the lunch that you prepared, you'll be sad and lonely because it's not the chicken. Then you'll be kind of unsatisfied even though your belly is full. And then you're going to go searching around for biscuits, or you're going to kind of see what's in the fridge, you're going to see what's in the storeroom, you're going to see what's hidden in the cupboards, and all trying to fill a like chicken shaped hole. You are going to have a very unenjoyable day with food and probably way more calories if you don't just get the hot chicken now. So the happy ending was I got the hot chicken and it tasted amazing. And I felt very satisfied and could move on with my afternoon. No overeating or trying to make up for lack needed. That was one of those stories, I think, that it was really a nutritional need, which brings me on to the first test of how you know it's a real craving versus a fake kind of craving or kind of disordered eating, right? The real test is how it tastes as you're eating it, and most important, how it makes your belly feel. So I think that's our number one job with our nutrition, that we are the only one that can read our own signals, and our signals are constantly changing. Our nutritional needs, our energy needs are changing literally every day based on so many different things, even like what the weather outside is, how cold or hot it is, how our sleep was, where we are in our hormone cycle. The list is endless as to why we need a slightly different amount of calories or nutrition every day. The test will always be your body is rewarding you through comfort. So when you eat something and it tastes really lovely and your belly feels complete and cozy and nice and satisfied, that is your 2 thumbs up that your body is happy with what you had. I think another way to tell the difference is, like my chicken story, it remained on my mind. It wasn't budging. And obviously, you know, it's not as if chicken is a bad food. I'm just saying that that was the kind of nutritional need or the thing my body was asking for a lot last week. But it could equally be chocolate or ice cream or kiwis or any food at all, you know. But basically, it's that it hung around, the need hung around. And I think that's a huge difference, right? Between like just like a kind of maybe fake craving versus a real nutritional craving, because you know, a lot of our disordered eating stuff is based on scarcity. It's like urgency. It's like, you know, even with binging or anything, it's very like rapid. It's very frenzied. There's no time in it. It's like, actually, we have that feeling of like, I'm running out of time, or this is my window, or I'm going to have to start being good again later on, or I'm going to have to start being good again tomorrow. So I'll eat this all now. That's very different from when you're thinking about a food and then you're thinking about it again that afternoon and then again that evening. If you really have read into that need, and you're kind of like, oh my God, that's really popped up in my mind again. And would it really taste nice? And would it really feel nice in my belly? Because a lot of kind of our weight problem stuff is actually just about being bold. It's just about being naughty, and it's just about breaking rules. And we'll be frenzied eating stuff we're not allowed to usually have on our diet, or that we've judged as wrong or bold or forbidden. We'll be eating those things, or we'll be craving those things just to break rules, just to be bold, just to be naughty. So that's why it's like you have to put it through the second filter of like, as I eat it, can I imagine myself liking it? And as I eat it and finish it, can I imagine my belly being really satisfied and happy with the feeling afterwards? Another way I see it as well, a bit like, you know, that one thing staying on your mind, it's a bit kind of like, I think with shopping in general, like say with clothes or with anything, say I see something nice in a shop, and my test always is, if I leave the shop and I'm still thinking about it that evening or the next day, then I might buy it. I just kind of think that's the real knowing when it stays around. Obviously, I buy stuff on the hop as well sometimes. Sometimes I can't leave a building without something. Another story kind of related to that was, I had a client in today when I was doing all of this for myself, right? So I had gone on a mindful eating course. And not that what I do was part of that course, actually. What I do actually went against a lot of the stuff on the course. I suppose what it awoke in me is that sense that, hey, my belly tells me stuff and my taste buds tell me stuff. And I wonder what would happen if I quit all my dieting and started listening. And I'm telling you, once you start listening and you start trying to tune in to what your belly is saying and what your taste buds is saying, that's when you really realize how crazy your mind is, right? Because I suppose for me, there would have been times that I would have checked in with my stomach and it wasn't remotely hungry, but my mind is like, you have to eat breakfast, you have to eat before you leave the house. And it's like, I'm not going into the Sahara desert, like, as in, there will be food in town, there will be food in the city. When you start listening to your belly, you'll uncover how crazy your mind can be and how it's so based on scarcity and lack of food. It's real scarcity thinking, because it's like 99% of the time, I think we are someplace, or we're going someplace where there's food here, there's food there, there's food we can get on the way. There's really no fear of us with food. Like, you know, we've a lot of food, we're eating a lot of food. So like, it's just an interesting thing when you start challenging your mind that like, hey, I'm totally up for eating. It's just, it really feels like from my stomach now that my stomach needs a rest. It's not actually asking for food. So I'm just going to listen to that. A lot of the work we do when we're improving our relationship with food or our body or our eating, 50% of it is about learning afterwards and like being very comfortable to learn lessons. So being comfortable to learn lessons is that you don't give yourself grief, you don't give yourself guilt or shame or whatever for making a wrong or uncomfortable decision. So that really is needed here, right? When you're figuring out the difference between what's a kind of frenzied, disordered eating craving and then what's a real nutritional craving, right? Because say, for instance, I had a client this morning and she said she'd walk by Marina Market. She was kind of thinking she'd head in there and get some ice cream. But then by the time she got in there, she saw these pistachio cookies. So she got one of them and then she headed home and she had one with a cup of tea. And she was like, do you know what? It was actually too sweet. She was like, I finished it, but it wasn't a nice feeling in my belly. And I was like, that's the whole thing with us improving our eating. So much of it is reflection. So much of it is like, wow, that's really good to know. That's really good that I have that data on those specific cookies and I'm aware now how they make me feel, because there's maybe other cookies that don't make me feel like that. But again, there wouldn't need to be any guilt or shame. And I just know I would have had so many times, right, at the very beginning of all of this, where my mind would have been like, get the cookie, get the cookie. Oh, you need it. Oh, it'll be gorgeous. It'll be so nice. It'll be amazing. It'll be amazing. It'll be amazing. And then after I had it, I was like, that was way too much. And my belly totally didn't need that. And now I feel slightly uncomfortable. And how I used to see that was like, oh my God, my mind won again. Because I'm like, actually getting out of eating and weight issues is kind of a battle with our mind. It's like our mind is the one that created disordered eating and weight problems. And now we're trying to honor and strengthen and support our body by listening to it. And so there's so many times where my mind tricked me and was like, oh, you need this and this will be amazing or whatever. And then I'd have it and be like, oh my God, it really wasn't. So that was my mind playing tricks on me. I really think the main message here, right, is slow it way down. So when you think of a food, really run through the entire thing, like in your head, how it tastes, how it feels, and also really be so supportive and talk to yourself like a really loving mom and be like, pet, you know, you could have it tomorrow as well if you wanted. Like, as in, if now's not the perfect time for it, you could have it later, you could have it tomorrow. Like, there's no pressure on you. Don't feel you need to make your belly uncomfortable or anything. And I had another client this morning and she was at an afternoon tea and she was really proud of herself because usually at something like that, she'd be really stuffed. It was kind of a family weekend and she'd be really uncomfortable and stuff from all the eating. But like, really from her story, she could appreciate scones are gorgeous. She's pro scones. She's not anti scones, but she could kind of juggle the fact that they are delicious and equally my belly would not like the feeling of them right now. So it's like, again, it's a yes to scones, but probably like later or tomorrow or another time. And I think that's such a lovely skill. And that's really like a lovely feeling of trust as well, right? That we're kind of saying like, okay, if this is just my mind kind of going into panic, if you kind of learn to soothe it and be like, hey pet, there's always going to be more food later. There's always going to be nicer food around the corner. That can really like settle down that voice. And then with day on day of doing that, you start being whatever the opposite of food scarcity is, like food abundance. You start really knowing from life experience that anytime you don't have the scone or the chocolate or the ice cream now, it literally is there for you later or tomorrow, still in a shop waiting for you should you want it. So yeah, that was today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please review this podcast on Spotify. Please follow if you're not doing already. And I'd also love if you join me on social media at Happy Weight Aoife. And I'd love if you gave me feedback as well, DMs or comments or whatever. That'd be really class. Okay, thanks so much for being here and have a lovely week.